Deputy Mayor Prupus.
PSAB is meeting tomorrow night virtually at 7 o'clock. So it's our first evening meeting of the year, so if you have any pedestrian safety issues or want to join that meeting, you can find the information on the township website.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Mr. Wasserman.
thank you so much. I want to thank the Wyoming Presbyterian Church for their generous food donation to our food pantry. And I just want to remind our residents that we do have a food pantry. If there are any residents that are in need, there's information on our website, and we're very fortunate to have a pantry in our town, and it's available. And so please please keep that in mind. Our food pantry is actually adjacent to Town Hall. We have a small storage facility, and it's pretty well stocked right now. So, but if there's anybody in need, we're moving into the colder weather. Let's not let anybody go in need. That's all I have.
Okay.
So Richard, who mans that, and who, is that part of the senior citizens group? Like, who decides how that food gets out, who's in need? Would we recommend somebody to the
Well,
social worker?
We have a social worker. Our social worker answers phone calls. They take messages during the week, and all the phone calls are returned. And I know that Deputy Mayor Prupus has been helped with it. I know that Annette Romano has been volunteering to help stock the shelves.
And we have Anna Millen is our in-house social worker
Right.
that is the liaison to families
Yeah.
and acts anonymously to protect their
Right.
confidentiality.
So she's
Yes.
really taking care of
Yes.
it. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, next up, we have the Environmental Commission.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Mr. Falcon, my apologies.
That's all right. Thank you, Mayor.
My
Quick report.
enthusiasm, my,
The mediation convened by the special master took place yesterday, and the steering committee will be meeting with the township committee in closed session after this meeting to discuss it. Also, Judge Gardner signed an order extending the township's immunity to November 30, and another mediation session will be held in early November. That's all.
I'm sorry, could you just please repeat that date? Was it November, Mr. McDonald?
No reports, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Kit. The Environmental Commission update on the ban of single-use plastics. We will now have a presentation from our Environmental Commission Chair, Priya Patel. Thank you, Priya.
Thank you, Mayor Lieberberg. Should I wear a mask, or what would you prefer?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so the purpose of today is just to give the township committee members sort of an overview of where we are at since the ordinance was passed last December and went into effect in June. So all of you should have received something in your packet that provided you with kind of an overview of what the larger retailers in town are doing. And for the purposes of informing the public, I can review that, or if you had any specific questions, I can address them.
If you could just maybe speak closer to the mic, so it's going to be on YouTube for people who are watching.
Yeah.
Great.
So you all should have received in your packet just an overview of the 6 large retailers, or maybe 5 large retailers in town, and how and what are they doing in terms of their compliance with this ordinance. I wanted to kind of really focus the gaze on 3 of our retailers. There's this CVS, ShopRite, and the Trader Joe's. And Trader Joe's just recently started allowing their customers to provide, or to bring in the reusable bags. Previously, they were not doing that, but as of this Monday, they are starting to allow residents to do that, which is great. CVS, however, is providing the reusable bag, but the reusable bag that they're providing is plastic. They are charging the fee as per the ordinance, but this is the bag that they're providing. It is made out of 80% post-consumer recycled material, but it's a plastic bag nonetheless. And ShopRite is offering this bag as their reusable bag, which is obviously a plastic bag. So it was discussed at the commission to, find a way to really get the retailers in town to really, follow the spirit of this ordinance, which was not to penalize them, but really to enforce behavior change, right? So we are proposing an amendment tonight, which would reflect the language that has already been used in Summit, Chatham, Madison, which are some of the adjacent towns, but other towns have also adopted a stricter definition for a compliant bag because they were able to foresee some of these, loopholes or ways or workarounds that some of these larger retailers would take. And as you can see, I'm also trying not to focus on our smaller businesses, which have been doing a fabulous job of trying to really adhere to this ordinance. It's really just the retailers with the deeper pockets that we're finding are kind of violating the spirit of this ordinance. So Ed Hilsenrath, who's on the commission with us, will present the amendment, which is essentially just a more strict definition of the compliant bag. I also want to add that there is a piece of legislation which is sitting on Governor Murphy's desk. It's A 1978 S 864, and that is proposing a full ban on bags and the polystyrene food takeout containers. It would be an 18-month rollout. It would only provide for straws on request, and this pretty much so far is exactly what we have in our township. So Millburn is really kind of ahead of the curve as far as many of the townships and cities in New Jersey. The proposed legislation will go even further to ban paper bags at all large box stores. It would not ban them at small stores, but that's sort of the additional element that goes one step further than our current ordinance. So I wanted to put that out there to say that it's on the horizon, but, as we've known in the past, we generally don't try to wait for Trenton. So, Committeewoman Eglo last year, helped us bring this ordinance to the forefront of township's attention, and we were able to pass it in December. So we've effectively had, the last 6 months, and then months after that, where this township has really gotten into the practice of not using these bags. So we think that passing an amendment would be a good idea, even in the event that the state passes this law. So I'm going to turn it over to Ed now.
I think Priya touched on most of the big points. I believe everybody has a copy of the amendment that we drafted. And the proposal is to, try to match the language that some of our neighboring towns have used to firm up the definition to make it so that loopholes like these don't exist. I will say, looking at what the state legislation is, and it was passed by both houses on September 24th. So, we're waiting. Hopefully the governor will sign it. We don't see why he wouldn't, but you never know. But assuming the governor signs it whenever he does, again, as Priya said, it's in 18 months till it's effective. And upon its effectiveness, it will supersede all local ordinances and legislation. So the state bill, which is, even more restrictive because it includes paper bags as well, will go into effect. And our feeling is we have a great ordinance in place. We don't think that we should wait 18 months to have all of our merchants abide not only by the letter of it, by the spirit of it. And our small merchants have done a wonderful job, and we feel like our larger merchants are taking advantage. And we don't believe that's right, and we believe this, as presented, is an easy fix. So we present it to the township to review and let us know. With that, do we have any questions, or?
Well, first of all, thank you, Ed and Priya, for coming out tonight. And yeah, so we worked really hard on this. It took a couple of years, like nothing goes that fast. And I'm with Assemblyman McKee, and he kept saying, we can't wait for Trenton, so do what you can for your town. And I think our town has really changed behavior. And I think it's been a year. Wait, how long has this been now? March?
12.
Yeah.
December 2019.
Effective June.
Effective, right. So I think it's been definitely successful in changing consumers' behavior. And if this just zeroes it in a little bit more so we don't have these loopholes, and that when Murphy hopefully does sign this sooner than later,
Right.
we will be more prepared than some of our neighboring towns who not, I mean, there are still towns who haven't passed this, haven't discussed it yet. So I think this is really great, and I thank you for working with the Environmental Commission on this.
Well, we certainly appreciate your support.
Yeah, I'd like to also make a comment. I just want to also thank you for your service. I mean, I think, you know, I think, you know, going into this ordinance, you know, we were all a little bit nervous in terms of compliance and making sure that this would work in our town. And and I understand it's been great, and people are getting in the hang of it. Has anybody gone to the larger retailers to like kind of sit down with management or?
No, Free, you haven't done anything with that.
I tried to talk to Trader Joe's and can't, but, you know, they'll refer me to corporate.
Right.
Okay.
So, pretty much
So-
a stone wall.
So in your estimation, yes, thank you for bringing this to our attention. In your estimation, the big violators, if you will, are ShopRite and the CVS.
Yes.
If you had to categorize in terms of environmental damage, those would be the two that would be the,
Yes.
and those are, you know, pretty
And
substantial
they're probably
national.
producing,
Yeah.
you know, between the two of them, more paper bags or more plastic bags than the rest of our merchants combined, you know, ex the mall. But certainly in, you know, no, downtown Millburn.
Yeah, I mean, they've effectively replaced one evil with another. So they've gone from a thin film plastic bag to an even thicker plastic bag.
Right. It's-
You know, which they're arguing to have it, you know, emblazoned with a reusable bag. But to some degree, it's a bit of, you know, greenwashing on their part. It's still a plastic bag. And we, you know, we had talked when we had presented this resolution, or we're working on the resolution, about having stricter language, because Angic had recommended having a much more defined, specific, strict definition for a compliant bag. And we kind of edged away from that, thinking, you know, we really need to do that. You know,
Part of it hoping that merchants would do the right thing, but by not defining it so strictly that it would give some room for creative solutions or whatnot. And instead, what's happened is the opposite. We've had the big merchants, you know, just go exactly by the letter of it. You know, I think if we had it to do again, we would have tried to insert that more restrictive language, so.
Well, that's what amendments are for, to
That's right.
Right.
fix some things.
That's right.
Do you know if, see, here the problem is a lot of our residents go to the ShopRite in Livingston that does not have an ordinance, and the ShopRite in Springfield. So it really would be great when it becomes cohesive, the whole state. Do you know if the other, because ShopRite is so huge, Wakefern, if the ShopRites in down the shore where they have the ordinance uses those yellow bags? Yeah,
don't know the
I can
answer.
call Bill Sumas and find out, but I think if we can do this in our town, we start with our own and
Right.
work from there.
You know, and by the way, obviously, everybody knows, assuming the state goes ahead and Governor Milford signs the bill, they're gonna have no choice.
Correct.
You know, it's just that, why let them pollute for 18 months more until, you know, the state legislation is effective, you know, as opposed to saying, change your behavior now.
Right.
So, Anyway.
And other than that, do you think everything is running to, you know, as planned?
I think our opinion from what we see from other merchants is we're very pleased with compliance. You know, I think I would say, and Priya, you know, correct me if I'm speaking for you, but obviously we're living in strange times. People aren't shopping as much, buying as much, so it's hard to get as much of a census. as we necessarily like. If we didn't, if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, we would have done more of a job of knocking on every merchant's door and saying, what are you seeing, what are you doing? Our sample size is less. So.
PetSmart was one of the retailers that I visited, and they are a large retailer, and they said that they are complying with the ordinance, to the spirit of the ordinance, et cetera, and they are giving out the paper bags. And the manager, he disclosed to me that they actually cost us 17 cents per bag, but we're selling it for 10. So, we're doing this at a loss, but we're doing it on principle. So there are many, good actors in town, and the small businesses in town are certainly, feeling the pressures of COVID, but they are doing their best, to the best of our knowledge.
So if we are in agreement, do we direct Kit to make this something that we want to talk about at the next meeting, to put an amendment out?
I have to tell you, I really haven't been able to hear much of what was said tonight, so I would really like an opportunity to look at this.
What I just asked, Cheryl, was if there's agreement amongst the township committee, what is the next step to put an amendment onto an existing ordinance? And I guess Kit would answer that.
Yes, we can take a look at this and prepare amendments, and I'd be happy to be in touch with whoever can zero in on the elements that we ought to focus on tightening up.
So is there consensus from the township committee to move forward with an amendment to supplement our existing ordinance 2547-19 that would provide with an additional carve-out or additional restrictions, if you will, on the use of plastic and the language set forth in the in your presentation from the Environmental Commission. So that would be my understanding.
Okay, so if we do that, we would present it at a meeting, then there would be the normal meeting in between, and then we would have a second reading. So there would be a chance for public comment. I see someone raise their hand. So there would be a chance for public comment at the first reading, the meeting in between, and then the second reading for passing. So we're not passing it tonight.
Right. And we should
Yes.
make sure we invite our, our retailers to comment, invite them, it should be a learning process, and let them come and engage with us if they want to.
And I think in the interim, the Environmental Commission should reach out directly to the two largest perpetrators, if you will, or violators of both CVS and ShopRite, and include that in your fact-finding mission as well, to see what their appetite would be for some.
Can we get a red line, can we get a red line version of their proposed amendment?
Pardon me?
Do they have a
Wants a
proposal?
red line version of their proposed amendment.
This is what we were provided with is a amendment to their,
But it amends the definitions, right?
right.
Yeah, it specifically amends 2 sections in the ordinance,
Right.
which we have numbered.
Right, we get a red line version of your amendments.
Yes. We could do that, sure.
Thanks.
So we could have that for the next meeting or the meeting after, depending on your timetable. We have October 20th or November 10th, I believe?
Correct.
Correct, okay. So
Okay.
why don't you circle back and let us know your readiness? Reach out to the retailers in the interim, and then you'll let us know when you're ready to circle back.
And the goal would be for it to, depending on our meeting schedules and the time, if we're in October, I guess that we were talking about essentially by January, hopefully it being enacted. Okay, that sounds good, that sounds great.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excuse me, does does the committee have any other additional questions, or Kit, do you want to add anything that perhaps we missed?
No, I have nothing to add at this point, thanks.
Thank you. Cheryl, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, the truth is, I really couldn't hear the presentation.
Yeah, I'm just going to suggest to everybody to lean into their mics, as I am doing now, to make sure that you can be heard clearly. And also, just to add to this, you must have this passed by the end of the year. You can't, it can't carry over into the next
Right.
year. So.
Right,
Okay, so that accelerates your timetable.
Yeah, and we only have one meeting in November. Do we have 2 functioning meetings in December?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
just let me know when you want me to speak on it.
And Mayor, just sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
We are now at capacity in this room, so anybody who comes in after should go into the conference room in the back.
Okay.
Two are leaving.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Look at what you say, Alex, and 2 walk out.
Thank you.
That effect.
We'll now proceed to public comment. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, and speak loudly so that your comments may be understood by all and properly recorded. This meeting is also properly noticed as a Zoom webinar for those that cannot attend. If you're watching via YouTube and would like to comment, please refer to the meeting notice for details or call 301-715.
No, Mayor, I'm sorry. Those are the wrong instructions. We are set up as a Zoom meeting, okay? For those who are attending via Zoom, they can raise their hand, or if
Okay.
they're on the phone, they can hit *6 to participate.
Now or during the announced public comment period. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Bill Horvath. I live on 40 Whitney Road, and I'd like to suggest that in light of the pandemic, that you actually discontinue the, let's say, non-recyclable ban in the interest of public safety. And then, should you not, well, with respect to the issue of making changes, if in 18 months we're expecting a statewide regulation or law, wouldn't it be more appropriate to not force the merchants to commit the funds to an interim approach, but rather just continue as reasonably efficient as you can until that next, say, law is passed? But primarily, let's worry about health and let's worry about transmission of virus via the people bringing in their own bags.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maureen Waterbury, and I reside at 17 Park Road. And I just have a quick comment. I see an item on the agenda, which is ordinance 2563-20.
Close. Yeah, get close to the mic.
Sorry. I see an item on the agenda, which is ordinance 2563-20, which I am interested in. Do you intend to hold a second reading and a public hearing on the ordinance later tonight? We had been informed by the township attorney, Kit Falcon, that there would not be a formal consideration of this ordinance tonight, as the planning board has not met for its consistency review.
Kit,
And this
do you
was
wanna-
notification
Yes,
by
I was in
Kit.
touch with the attorney for the group that filed a protest, and I informed him that in light of the fact that the planning board had not had the opportunity to complete their review to determine whether or not the ordinance was consistent with the master plan, that this proceeding would be, this ordinance is going to be considered tonight, and one of the alternatives would be to carry it to October 20th. So there would not be a hearing and second reading tonight. You're correct.
Okay, so there will be no further discussion on that ordinance tonight?
No, that's not what I
No,
said.
no. There
There'll
will be
no
further
Second
discussion.
reading and no hearing.
They'll-
But-
It's on the
We're gonna
agenda
discuss
later.
it.
if-
You'll discuss it, right, but there'll be no open public comment?
Correct.
No, there's no public comment, no.
Right, okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
I'm too short for this, okay. Nope. Okay, my name is Stephanie Morgan. I live at 49 Greenwood Drive in Millburn.
You're gonna have to speak louder.
I have to speak louder.
Yep.
You could take it out.
How much,
You can
take
Take the
it
mic
out?
out of the holder and
can
hold
I,
it like
I
that.
can't take this off, right?
No, take the mic out of the holder.
Helps you.
Yeah.
Clearly, I've never been an entertainer, okay. On October 2nd, I sent each of the committee members and the township manager a letter sharing my concerns about flying any flag other than the American flag on the township flagpoles. And I received, thank you, written responses from some of you, which I appreciate, and also a call from the mayor. And I see that under new business, on the agenda, it includes a Human Relations Advisory Committee, which is, I think Ms. Prupus has talked about when the motion was rescinded with respect to the new ordinance for the flag, that you mentioned that there'd be a group to deal with diversity issues in the municipality. As I was fumbling around the township website, because I'm still getting oriented to it, and I looked at the list of ad hoc committees, and then I just fumbled my way, I guess, into something called a Cultural Engagement, Diversity and Arts Committee.
Yep.
Based on its mission and its structure, as I read it, it actually looks kind of in the direction of the Human Relations Advisory Committee. But it looks like the current members' terms are over at the end of this year, so I don't know if it was a temporary ad hoc or what it was, but in any case, it looks like that something like this was contemplated at some point, earlier, well, before I was familiar with the website anyway. But I wanted to share a few thoughts, whether the existing committee is reused or, people brought into it, or whether, something else is formed. I wanted to share a couple of thoughts. The first one is that while the selection of the committee has to be inclusive, it shouldn't get so large that attendance at meetings is unpredictable and decisions can't be made. I've had some experience in the nonprofit sector where that's the case, and what happens is nothing happens. The other thing is, I think that the final selection shouldn't be made until the new township committee members are sworn in so that they can have input. And I guess sort of the last thing is that I think that the committee, whether it's the existing committee or, or a new one or whatever it is, should be giving materials, including letters, township committee meeting minutes, and any other statements in response that you received with respect to the raising of the Black Lives Matter flag at Town Hall, and the proposed draft of the ordinance with respect to flying any flag other than the American flag on township flagpoles. And in concert with that, I would like to restate my concern, which each of you saw in the email and in the letter that I had sent to every one of you, so this won't come as a surprise, but I think the last comment having to do with, flag flying as I'll call it a diversity and inclusion issue, I just want to say once more for the record that I just don't think that a new flag ordinance of any sort is going to accomplish anything. It would be impossible to agree on a hard and fast rule. There would have to be guidelines. An interpretation of these guidelines would never provide criteria on which every township committee and community member would agree, inevitably. So what then? Would we go with the majority or refuse to fly the flag? if those who argue against it are compelling or loud or organized. Since the adoption of the American flag, our country has not been able to agree as to what it symbolizes. The Confederacy rejected it, Vietnam protesters burned it, and today a broad constituency refuses to pledge to it. So please let's make sure that this Human Relations Committee, or whatever it's named, focuses on the actions necessary for us to actually accomplish inclusiveness and equality rather than mere symbolism. American history and our recent experience in our community should guide the response to future proposals.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
There you go.
Am I doing it right?
I got it.
Okay. I failed.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Am I talking into it? Okay, just to piggyback off what she just said. Is this it? Okay.
Please state your name. And
Jillian Braunstein, Barnsdale Road. I can't get that in there. I just want to piggyback off what she said because I'm very, very concerned. As you know, I've been to a few town council meetings, and I think that to create this human advisory committee, is that even the right term at this point? I don't even know where we're at with the terminology. But I think it's repackaging what you were trying to do before, underhandedly behind the scenes. So, yeah, you can make comments and you can make a face, but the truth is,
No,
we heard.
I have a statement.
No, I'm just speaking from the hip because it's clearly you're trying to repackage something that so many townspeople rejected. So it's very concerning to so many of us in town. And there absolutely should not be any place for any of this stuff, especially on government property, because it's just divisive. And I warned you of that weeks ago. I told the three of you that. And all you've done now is divided this community. You have pitted friends upon friends, neighbors upon neighbors. It's enough. That's it. Just get rid of it. It shouldn't be. There's one flag, like she said, it's the flag of the United States, and that's what unites everybody. If you have your own political opinions, then kindly keep them to yourself, drape yourself in them head to toe, decorate your house, the lawn, all of it, but that's it. Let everybody believe what they want to believe in and leave the town property and government buildings alone to represent the United States of America. Hence the word united. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Jeffrey Feld. I live at 11 Alexander Lane for the last 28 years. I agree with the gentleman before about, I think he said that we are living in strange times and that we need creative solutions. For the last few meetings I've been here coming to you and then asking, why isn't the agenda packet items posted 48 hours prior to the meeting? If you look at today's agenda, it's outrageous as to 3 items. The first one, it says bill list. Why don't we know how $880,000 is being spent? Why don't we have the list as to items? Pursuant to Oprah, I discovered that we paid Mr. Falcone's law firm $50,000 at the last meeting. But the only way I found it, I had to file an Oprah request and wait time. I'm still waiting for a lot of Oprah responses. If you look at 2189, in the caption, it should at least tell you the amount of the contract that we're awarding. The reason I'm concerned, again pursuant to Oprah, I found out at the last meeting, you approved a proposal that was supplied to you on September 15th, at the day of the meeting, for Perkins Eastman. When I start reading the proposal, you start seeing that they agreed to reduce their original offer by 1/3. In this resolution you're going to adopt tonight, you at least say what the 6 bids were. In the materials that we received from Perkins Eastman, I don't believe we ever saw who the 6 proposals were and the amounts. And when you start reading through the proposal, you start seeing a process that 2 members were the ones that decided who to retain. There's real issues, there's 45 days, and we have to contemplate, based on a lot of other things, whether that contract should be rescinded and the people should have been given proper notice so they could give comments as to that contract. And this is the real kicker tonight. If you look at 2197, you're going to transfer monies. Do you know what you're transferring the monies for? It's for the SID. How come you don't say it's for the SID? Because the SID is subject to litigation. And one of the things is, I supplied you a letter I ask you specifically to ask your city attorney to review 4 new cases I gave you that were not cited about a disqualifying conflict of interest. Remember I said these are strange times? This morning, a New Jersey Globe, Kevin O'Toole, who was a former councilman here, wrote a column. You know what his column was titled? He goes, "How do you know when they are wearing a wire?" That's how the day began. Then you go to the Star Ledger. And there's an op-ed piece by a mayor of North Bergen, and he's talking about, there's questions of whether the wrongful criminal statute, wrongful municipal behavior, public corruption, whether we should have minimum sentencing requirements. Then it gets better. The appellate division issues an opinion today for purposes of criminal impersonation, what is the word benefit means. Because yesterday, this township filed an answer. Half of the people in this audience are in shock, saying that Ms. Prupus did not receive a benefit by approving this SID. Based on that appellate division decision, I think you better direct your city attorney to reconsider the answer that you guys filed yesterday. In addition, today, there are 2 notices that were published about notices of Mount Laurel, fair housing, fair share. That's what's driving everything that's going on here. One involves Roseland, the other one involves Hanover. And when you look at the full page ads, that's why I told Jimmy, start reading the public notices because you learn a lot. This is where we're headed, folks, that we're gonna have to lay out our plan because I sent to you in the mail, by email, local finance notices. In the last 10 days, 2 local finance notices were issued by the state. One directing how these virtual hearing meetings are supposed to happen as to proper notice and whether we get access to public documents. We're entitled to these documents 48 hours prior. In addition, at some point tonight, our BA is going to have to tell us when we're going to have a public hearing on our calendar year best practice inventory questionnaire, because that's required. And the one question they have, a new question this year is, does this municipality have an inclusionary zoning ordinance? Because that's what's driving this, everyone. We have a constitutional obligation to provide affordable housing. We've been playing the game for all the years. This is monopoly. At some point, the property that we now know, we've been talking about American Water, which is on the other side of on JFK. This is what's going to happen, folks. We're going to move the dump to that property, and we're going to flip it to the developer who's going to eventually build the affordable housing that's going to be